Hey guys, Team Blind MST here with Brian and John. We're kind of here to talk about an interesting topic we kind of thought of. Dragons of Legend, in our opinion, kind of changed the format and kind of broke the format more than Primal Origins did.
Which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it, because all these archetypes that were just supposed to be absolutely disgusting, that everyone was looking forward to, just like really got everything they needed in Primal Origins to an extent. So, and it brought us artifacts, which, you know, everyone said for the longest time was going to be the most broken thing in the world.
Well, my logic is that the Primal Origins is an actual booster pack.
Right.
Dragons of Legend is like a side pack.
Which is weird. Which is so weird that it's like changing the way.
So let's talk about that. On the Dragons of Legend side, what came out from that set that like really everything that changed the format really?
The hands, Curry
Fire and
Bandit,
Ice Hands, Curry Bandit,
Soul Charge, and Wiretap.
Mathematician, I think, could be something that's worth mentioning.
It'll be relevant once once everything settles. Once the dust settles, Mathematician will be relevant. It's good in Light Swordsing support. There's builds that run that. It's good in Plant Synchro. It's good. It's good and stuff. It
can potentially replace Armageddon Knight on some things.
Yeah, in some decks it essentially functions as an Armageddon Knight in decks that benefit more from a 3 than a 4.
So let's talk about the least things that were affected to the most things that were affecting.
From Dragons of Legend?
Yeah, so Wiretap.
It's just everyone's running it. I mean, there's a lot of traps running around. I think what happened was people started running more counter traps, such as Black Horn of Heaven. So, I mean, you need to fight counter traps with counter traps.
I remember when Wiretap first was announced and people were talking about it, and they said it was going to be a good card, but only a few people said it was going to be main deck worthy, and maybe only at 1 or 2 at most. But now we're seeing some builds
I run top it at 3.
Yeah, we're seeing some builds top with it at 3, and it's pretty nutty when you think about it that trap card is just putting in so much work when it's essentially
a free 7 tools.
Yeah, it's a 7 tools without a cost.
Like, you shuffle back. Yes, pay 2,000 for that warning. Shuffle it back in your deck, and when you draw it again, like do it again.
But was paying 1,000 for 7 tools really that big? Like, what kept 7 tools from being so big? Like you said though,
I feel like if Blackhorn was ran as much as it was back then, or if like Sony had these trap heavy decks, I mean, like, I started running Wiretap just to deal with Theosophy or Sanctum, Artifact Sanctum. So it's called the TCG. Like, Wiretap, it's just free. It's free.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, actually.
It's like an MST. It's a reactive MST.
I mean, that's...
Well, with at least how I use MST.
I guess, yeah. On to the next card. Not really... Curry Bandit, it's not really...
Curry Bandit's not the issue. It's having a big effect, but only because of Soul Charge.
Yeah, it's what you do with Curry Bandit, because we know Curry Bandit is only used for one thing, and that's to get to Soul Charge.
Right, like, let me play Dragon Rulers, and let me just send everything to the graveyard and add the Soul Charge to my hand.
So that leads us into Soul Charge.
And I feel like if Curry Bandit was more like Card D, where it was literally like the only thing you can do it ends your turn, then I think it would actually be kind of balanced. I just don't think, like, I don't know.
No, because everything they do at the end. They do before they card D anyway. Like, if they have traps in their hand, they set them, and then they card D. So it would just be the same. Like, all Dragon Rulers do is plus hard with draw cards, and then they Curry Bandit.
That's true.
So that wouldn't really change anything, but that leads us into Soul Charge. Soul Charge at 3 is nutty, because you can get to Curry Bandit. It's more consistent at 3. Soul Charge
in itself is a balanced card. It's just, I mean, like, with things like Curry Bandit, where you can just, I'm going to send everything I want to the graveyard and then add Soul Charge to my hand. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's not, like, the card itself isn't the issue. It's the things that it can be used with that's the issue.
The card itself is not the issue. The fact that it is at 3 and you can consistently get to it fast is ridiculous.
Yeah, it definitely does not need to be banned.
No, because when Soul Charge first came out, people thought it was going to be the most broken thing ever. Like, this card's stupid.
And I said those people are dumb.
It needs to be emergency banned, and people thought that's what it was going to be, but as it came out, people realized this isn't that bad.
It's not good in every deck.
No.
It really isn't. Like,
I played it 1 just because I don't actually like drawing 2, because I think it's a little too cloggy at 2, and Fire Fist specifically, but that's beside the point. It should be at 1, but at 3, it's pretty nutty, because it still does give any deck really a fighting chance of making a comeback, and some decks like Dragon Rulers can just establish a board that you can't get over, like a couple Felgrands or something.
Right, yeah.
With the Mythic Rulers or something, at least.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the cards that truly just kind of got splashed into everything and have kind of ruined this format in our eyes.
They're kind of, carrying this format.
Fire and Ice Hands.
The dirty hands. So
The delinquent duo.
yeah,
They really
that's
like
basically what they are at this point. Like they didn't tell you that, but I mean, there's a reason that it's Fire and Ice Hand. Those goblins are red, or those imps are red and blue.
So they first came out. People sat there and said, "These cards are good. They're better than, or they're not as good as Tengu."
Yeah, everyone, like, there were so many rage videos of people just like, oh my god, you guys, shut the fuck up. It's not Tengu. People aren't just going to splash these hands in every deck.
I have a story about that.
Everyone that made those videos, like, literally just suck a dick. Like, that's all I have to say to you.
I actually I find this funny because I had looked back like maybe a month later after the set had settled in and people were actually playing the hands and everything, and I saw this video. I think it was in response to a YouTuber Mega Capital G.
Yes, I think that saw the same video.
Was it a blonde hair guy?
Yes.
So he
was so sure of himself.
He's sitting there on his high horse. I don't even remember the name. Maybe we'll link it in there if we want to be assholes.
No, I don't think we need to do that much of dicks. People know who we're talking about.
Maybe. I don't even know. I don't remember who he was. I just randomly saw him because I wasn't subscribed. But I saw him, and he was sitting there preaching about how, oh, they're not that bad. People aren't going to splash them and everything, blah, 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 just on his high horse. And, like, it was just wrong. Like,
everything he said.
In hindsight, watching his video a month later, I sat there and said, like, this is just, like, this guy was so fucking wrong. I commented on the video saying that this guy was completely wrong, and it's hilarious, like, how wrong people were about these cards.
And I know hindsight's 20/20, but, like, come on, like, did you really not think that these were going to be an issue? I wasn't in the country when this set came out. I came back, someone tells me, like, oh, blah, 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 the hands. Like, it was before all the regionals, like, hands hadn't done anything at the regional. I asked what they did. Somebody told them, and I said, wait a minute. So it's a Tengu that pops a card. And obviously, I know it doesn't have the exploitability Tengu has and things, but the only reason Tengu was exploitable was because no matter what, when that thing fucking hit the field, they were getting another one. Like,
unless they warninged it.
You
can't warning the hands.
The hands, like, alright, yeah, they don't serve that same purpose, but you couldn't clear a field with Tengu. You can't normal summon Tengu, attack, crash, pop a card, special summon, attack, crash, pop a card.
Especially the thing, like the enablers that let Tengu do that in his prime, like Trish, are gone.
Right, yeah. So everything that made Tengu disgusting, like, I mean, who synchro summons anymore? Like, I'm not trying to diss and say, I absolutely love synchro summoning. I play Quasar and Six Sams and shit like that for fun still. Like, I love those decks. I very much enjoy playing those, but people don't play them. You can't exploit Tengu. Like, it's just...
Like, the problem is both engines are floaters. Fire and Ice Hand are a combo of 6 floaters. Tengu was a 3-card floater, but Tengu was a floater for synchroing or just keeping a 1700 monster on the field. That's really impressive. The hands are just a 6-card loop that
it's a 6-card floating stun engine is what it is. Like, it is a stun engine on their own, and
they clear through fields and they simplify game state to where after they've killed it, your opponent still has a whole deck. Because remember, it's only 6 cards that just ran through your full field.
And a deck thins. Wait, so let me get this straight. You're telling me that you're going to use your resources to get over my card. I'm still going to take one of your cards. Depending on what you did, maybe get another card back, all while I'm deck thinning.
Let's think of what decks run it. Hat obviously runs it. It gave Hat explosive power.
Hat would be nothing without.
It would be something, but it definitely would not be where it is.
It would not be top. It wouldn't be top.
Your best play would be to Sanctum.
Right. And, like, I'm not saying that, I mean, if the hands get banned, that you can't make a Trap Tricks artifact deck, but you wouldn't see every single person running this bullshit, like, oh, I'm going to regionals this weekend, let me pick up Hat so I can get, like, a free top. Like, you wouldn't see that. Like, you just...
Let's go back now and see what exactly people are playing the hands and topping. First off is obviously Hat. Second, Madolche hands. I don't think Madolche's actually, even with Angeli, which we'll talk about later, I don't think Madolche's actually have enough bite in them to actually be that competitive. Like, right. They're so fragile.
I always make the joke. I make the joke every time I play against people that have Angeli. And I was like, oh, you guys got a Lone Fire and your deck slowed down. Because it's true. Like, they don't OTK as hard anymore. I mean, maybe that's more control organized because you're playing the hands now. But, like, it just seems like they slowed down the deck so much.
I've stopped Madolche players. Like, Madolche players without the hands, they just instantly lost the Vanity's Emptiness, and it was kind of funny. Like, I thought the deck was going to be a little bit more competitive, but without the hands, it still didn't really do much.
Right.
Boojins, I know somebody that was siding them in Boojins.
Yeah.
Somebody who had topped at a regional because he had the mat, and he sat there and said, like, game 3, I was going to side the hands against you. And I was like, what? In Boojins? I mean, that could have been one instance, but it's still an instance I feel worth mentioning because that's just stupid. I don't even know what the hands could do that the Boojins can't already do.
Right, and, like, honestly...
Somebody just topped with Gravekeepers.
Right, Gravekeeper hands, Worm hands. Like, I don't think... I mean, like,
When worms do something in the meta, I think you know that the cards that are enabling them to do that are a problem.
And the sad thing is honestly, like, I'm not going to just throw this information out onto the internet because I don't want to run into it, but there are definitely archetypes that could benefit much better from using the hands than worms and gravekeepers. Like, yeah, it's good in those decks, but that's just because the goddamn cards are good in every single deck. Like,
it's actually really good in Fire Fist.
Yeah, it's very good in Fire Fist.
I hate it. I hate it with a passion, but it's stupidly good in Fire Fist because after you simplify game state, you have Wolf Barks and Spirit to just win the game.
Right. Like, it's just...
But, what else?
And I think that leads to, like, again, like, going back to the whole artifacts thing or, like, the Madolche things, if we run down this list of everything remotely relevant out of Primal Origins that is currently affecting the meta, half of these decks are literally being carried by the hands.
Exactly. So let's go over that real quick. We'll get into Primal Origins now.
So artifacts.
Artifacts are an engine, like the hands. Artifacts are not doing anything on their own as a deck, so they are being splashed with to make hat with trap tricks and hands. But I think it's mostly like, yes, you can say Moral Tech's ridiculous, he is, Sanctum's ridiculous, it is, Ignition's ridiculous, it is. But at the end of the day, that they played the first thing that you see is either Mermello or, to a more threatening extent, the hands just kind of come in and clean up to make sure that the Sanctum plays go off and shit like that.
Right.
I believe that without hands, the Trap Tricks artifact deck wouldn't be nearly as strong. I just don't think it would be.
Yeah, I don't see how it could.
I've never lost to Sanctum. I've never lost to the artifacts. I've lost to the hands every single time.
Because, or if you do lose to Sanctum, it's because you have to change your playstyle.
They've already gone. I've grinded with the hands for a whole game.
Right. So now, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you expend so much, they expend relatively nothing. Either you had to make a suboptimal play because, like, whether you want to say, like, oh, just go into Abyss Dweller and the hands don't drop. Yes. Okay, I went into Abyss Dweller, but they can Sanctum Abyss Dweller. Like,
exactly. That's
okay,
when
they just...
Anything you try to do,
it simplified the hands simplify the game state in that deck so hard. That's why that deck is good. Is because it forces, if you are playing hat, it forces your opponent to have a very linear mindset, and it is very easy to disrupt somebody when they only have maybe 5 options, and you know what those 3 best options are, and you have perfect outs to both of them always.
That's what it comes down to with that's why the deck works, because the hands simplify the game state, and when you go into something that can stop the hands, you're overextending to make Abyss Dweller, and then they have the things like Sanctum or anything reactive. You just say, oh, well, Trap Trick Shuffle Nightmare that I search with Ramel. Like, the other 2 engines pick them up, but once again, it's because you have to overextend to stop those hands.
And I already know people are going to say, oh, there's a ton of different ways you get around the hands. You just have to learn how to play around them. I know how to play around them. We made a video on how easy it is to play around them, but that doesn't mean that...
Almost every one of those ways you have to overextend.
Yeah, it's never your optimal play. No matter what, if you are playing around the hands, even if you are getting around them, you are still not making what the optimal play for the deck that you made is. Like, it just doesn't happen.
I have to use Wolfbark to go into Abyss Dweller. That sucks.
It's ridiculous.
So I don't think artifacts. I think the hands are pulling the artifacts.
Right. And same thing with Madolches.
Yes, they got Angeli. Angeli is a good card. I think Who Kick is still the problem with the deck because Who Kick is what goes into all their plays. But the Madolche engine itself is still so fragile that one slip up, like one Blackhorn to one of their exceeds,
one Great Duke skill, one effect failure,
one
good. If you just stop them, like if at any point in the way, if there's 5 steps to their combo, 4 points in that steps. If you stop them, they're just gonna pass turn. Like,
exactly, and be on the field with pretty weak monsters.
Right.
Unless the only thing that's really unless they have Chateau up.
Right.
But, I mean, Chateau is not that. I don't think it's that big of a problem.
No, but I mean, and I've seen a lot of profiles where people only run one of them anyway.
So. Really? Wow,
yeah, I didn't know that. Just get to one of them.
I thought it'd be at 2 at minimum, but that's fine.
It's either Chateau or Chicken. One of the 2.
But now let's look at Madolches when you play the hands in Madolches.
Yeah. Oh, gross. Ew. Disgusting.
I mean, now they do the same thing artifacts or hat does. The hands clear the way for Tiramisu to bounce whatever is left.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
what?
Like, oh, you figured out a way to get over the hands. Well, that's cute. I'm going to Tiramisu you. And then...
Because remember, Tiramisu doesn't target. So
okay.
Once again, the hands are kind of pulling Madolches. I did see that one guy did top with I think ARG was it with hand, or it was Madolche with the what is it? TG engine still, the
the old one.
Yeah, he still ran that, but I think that dude just was really good at the game and knew what he was doing. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, I think he just knew what the fuck he was doing. Plus, Tiramisu can actually beat the hands easily.
Yeah.
You don't That's one of the only decks that says I'm not gonna overextend to beat the hands.
I like Sylvans with Bird Jesus.
Well, we'll get to Sylvans in a minute.
Yeah. So all right, but right there, the two unarguably biggest cards. The most expensive cards, the cards everybody wants out of Primal Origins.
How much was Angeli going for?
Sanctums and Angelis, last time I checked, were $45 a pop.
Damn.
The most expensive cards out of that whole pack being carried to success by the hands.
$10 cards.
$10. Literally.
But you need a bunch of them.
Yeah. Literally being carried by the Dragon Legends. Like.
So, Boojins, they got Harume. That gives, they got Amaterasu too.
They did get Amaterasu.
Mostly Harume is what speeds them up.
Most people, if you ask them at the end of a real long tournament, they'll say they had Amaterasu, they didn't need to use it. If they did use it, they probably could have just done something else and still won anyways.
So mainly Harume, but Harume, I admit, I feel like I'm not a Boojin expert, but I feel like the hands don't really threaten a good Boojin player that much.
No, not really. I mean, sometimes you usually lose. Usually you're grinding with the hands, and then you run into a 1-of, and that's what causes you to lose.
But once again, the Boojins they're doing stuff, obviously, but I feel like they're the least powerful deck that's doing things right now. Like, they're doing the least amount of things out of, like, the top 4 decks, I would say, are Madolche variants, mostly the hand variant. Hat, obviously, Geargia.
And then Boojins.
Yeah, and I feel like Boojins are on the lower ladder of that, but that's fine.
And then the next deck, Sylvans,
Sylvans are...
They're supposed to be good. I feel like people just don't play them yet, so that's why they're not good.
Here's the thing with Sylvans. Sylvans are really good, but they are a combo-based deck. They're not a deck you pick up and you just say, oh, look, I've got the hands in my hand, or I've got an armor to set, or I've got...
Let's face it, guys.
The Madolche combos are pretty self-explanatory. Like, they're pretty simple. Sylvans have a lot. You have to know what you're stacking.
You have to be good. It's it's almost like old Quasar, really. Like,
well, they can... Yeah.
I mean, there's certain set-in-stone combos, but you kind of got to be smart. Like, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but a lot of these decks that are doing really well really don't take too much thought.
Hat is a deck that makes me sit there and say, look, you just need to know what play to interrupt and you'll win.
Right,
like what I play Tenki or Tensu. I play Tensu. Do you want to Sanctum a Tensu or Ignition a Tensu if you've only got one that's going to sit there and say, I can just play another one from my hand, or do you want to hit my Tenki that I'm limited to once per turn? Like, it's kind of no-brainer. Like, linear things that you sit there and say, do I stop this play or this play? It's dumb.
And so
but that's why Sylvans aren't played, though, honestly.
Exactly. Like, why have to be good, like, exceptional at playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When you can just take the easy way out? Like, I mean, I'm not...
Why learn how to
offend anybody?
Why learn how to play an archetype in a combo-based deck when you can just sit there and play a deck that you just need to know what to get rid of, with its own effect?
So Sylvans effectively irrelevant.
That's pretty much everything, right?
Right. I mean, Noble Knights got a ton of shitty support. Like, let's be honest. I mean, okay, Brothers is an okay card in some circumstances. Ector is a nasty card in some circumstances. The field spell,
terrible.
Completely terrible.
Not terrible, but
Avalon,
not needed.
God awful. Avalon's literally the most useless
Avalon's awful.
That's a joke.
Avalon's really awful.
That's worse than some of the Gravekeeper support that we got.
Yeah, Noble Knights aren't worth talking about.
Absolutely aren't worth anything.
So that's
the seventh one, Accentuate Sylvan, but that's kind of a joke. Ragna Zero.
Ragna Zero.
Berserk. The two best extra deck cards.
Ragna Zero is actually
and the rares.
You think that Ragna Zero wouldn't have done? I thought when Ragna Zero came out, it was gonna be past its prime, but it really wasn't. People are still playing it in the extra deck, which kind of makes me mad. But at the same time,
it dumps on anything with a field spell or that runs Kenki.
It's stopping Madolches essentially, and it can kind of disrupt. It can disrupt. Well, Fire Fists aren't really relevant right now, but it disrupts Boojins because it makes Boojins have to get rid of their
Same thing with Rhapsody and Berserk. Rhapsody and Berserk's really good because you can just be like, okay, I'll banish that hare, I'll banish that turtle, proceed to do work.
So that's our basic summary of, we're comparing Primal Origins to Dragons of Legends. Let us know what you guys think. Yeah. Do you think Dragons of Legends influenced the game way more, or this format way more than Primal Origins did, or do you think we're insane?
Yeah, thanks for watching.